Welcome to the Gulag.
Which one of you's from the New York Times? You know there's only two genders, right?
I just take pictures.
There's only two genders, and they know that in Iowa. I challenge the New York Times reporter and the Washington Post reporter to try to milk a cow and then try to milk a bull and see how that goes.
The wealthy should pay their fair share.
Yes, wealthy should pay their fair share.
What is a fair share? What percentage?
So you're saying that you're saying that they're paying their fair share is what you're saying?
No, I'm asking what percentage is a fair share?
Their fair share, the same, if a third of my money is going to taxes, then I think a third of their money should be going to taxes. It does. Well, it does.
I'm trying to understand because you realize the effective tax rate on the poor is less than it is on the rich, right?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not the poor. I'm very close to that line, but I'm not the poor.
Okay, so the effective tax rate on the middle class is less than it is on the rich, correct? What fair share would you like to change the tax rate to on the wealthiest what percentage of Americans so it's a fair share?
So let's say the wealthy 1% could pay, let's say if they paid, let's just give them 45%.
It's pretty embarrassing when you actually think this is a member of Congress in the United States of America. She doesn't even understand how the basic tax system in America works, the country she's in government representing. And then she tried saying she's not far off being poor. As a member of Congress, she'll have a base pay of $174,000 a year. That's insane.
There's the extreme approach that you are admittedly taking. And then there's also just ordinary people that might not be comfortable with the language change. And it just is awkward. And so they're afraid of not being courteous or being accepting. So there's like these two things. There's actually combating and not being, you don't like transgender, the idea of transgender. That's different than pronouns. But then just for most people, it's just feeling a little bit awkward and unsure and not wanting to hurt or offend somebody.
Well, why is it important for educators to teach about gender identity, gender presentation, and pronouns? Why do you think that's important?
Because there is a difference. There is biological sex, and a lot of times people are conflating sex and gender. So there's biological sex, and then there's gender, and that's a social construct in the sense that just because you're born biologically a female doesn't mean you automatically want to vacuum, for instance, which is usually a feminine activity or conflated that way. And so it's this idea of giving children in age-appropriate ways an understanding that these things aren't set in stone. Gender identity is not tied to biology.
You say that gender's not set in stone.
It's not.
What do you mean?
I mean that's just factually incorrect, saying that. So you have biology is the chromosomal makeup and reproductive organs and all of that. And so that would be sort of the nature side of things. But the nurture side of things is where we see more of gender identities.
She began by saying that my view is extreme. Okay, so the view that every single person on Earth has held up until 15 seconds ago is extreme. And the view that almost everyone does right now still holds as extreme, apparently, according to her. But there is this, they are conflating gender and sex because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman. So if you can laugh all you want, but this is a logical problem. You are conflating sex and gender just by saying that. So that's the problem.
There's biological sex, and then there is gender identity. Part of me wants to ask why you care so much, because it's really not that big of a deal.
Can I answer that? I'd love to answer that question. I care about the truth. So basic truth matters. I want to live in a society where people care about the truth and we're grounded in truth. Right. I care about children, and these insane ideas about gender are being foisted on kids, and that bothers me quite a bit. I care about the women who are having their opportunities stolen from them. I care quite a bit, yeah.
You are a champion for.
Why do they do this? They get people like her on where it says she's a doctor and they think that it gives their argument more credibility. You don't need to be a doctor to discuss this. It's the most simple issue ever. Even a 5-year-old understands the difference between a male and a female. They've taken the most simple issue and made it extremely complicated, and she's supposedly an educator. If you're an educator, what you're supposed to do is take very complicated issues and simplify them so everybody can understand it. These people do the complete opposite, and then he gets labelled for being extreme when he's explaining the most basic biology.
So you're asking me to change the actual meaning of words to accommodate you. I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm not going to do that. It is. Because not only is it a request, you can now get in trouble in certain states
I'm saying that's not
for
people's
misgendering someone.
The request of the trans community is not that I'm actually a man, but I want you to pretend I'm a woman. The argument of the trans community, which I agree with, is no, I am a woman. And so I want you to revert me.
But you're not a woman. So that's the problem. So this is what I say is now you've asked me to take on your mental disorder, right? So I am okay with the fact the argument from my uncle who thinks he's a Native American from a certain tribe is that this is what he thinks. He thinks, but he's not. Okay, so I'm not, then to say to me that argument is valid because he thinks it, no. Just because you think something doesn't make it real, okay?
But that's exactly what gender is. Gender is exactly about an experience and a performance and a social construct.
It's not a social construct. Stop saying a social construct. To say that words don't have meaning and they're socially constructed means nothing, and I'll tell you why.
They are.
But you say that, but then
This wasn't always a book.
Okay,
this
so
could be called mug.
So
it
then
just happens not
you know
to be.
what it is? Our entire discussion about Black America meant nothing. There's no such thing as racial injustice. See what I did there? Because Black is a social construct.
Yeah, but we live in a social reality. So within that social reality...
It can't be both, Mark. So you either think that the gender wage gap is BS, that feminism is wrong, and that racial disparities are all BS because everything's a social construct. You're either going to go full postmodernist and say nothing is real and it's all made up, or you're going to acknowledge that there are some hard, concrete truths. If there are hard, concrete truths, you and I are Black, okay? That's not going to change because we wake up and we decide, you know what, today I'm white and it's just how I feel, and today I'm Chinese. No. You and I are Black, okay? We are acknowledged as Black people. We're sitting down as Black people. I am a woman. You are a man, okay? Now, if I want to wake up tomorrow and say I'm a man, you want to say you're a woman, and we want to play the crazy game, we can do that. To then say all of society now is to pretend that it was all a social, no, it was a social contract. You were born a male. I was born a female.
Yes, that's a sex.
We are Black.
Candice Owens. She is always on point. She must be getting pretty tired of actually debating these people with facts and logic, and all they bring is their feelings. And he actually did kind of expose himself a little bit when he said, imagine that I'm a woman. That's it. It's your imagination. It's not reality. Adults, we have to live in reality. We're not kids. We can't live in imagination land, okay? So grow up. But let's be real. This is the stupidest argument in human history. It never gets easier to listen to. It is literally like listening to logic versus insanity every single time. Anyway, she said at the end we can either live in basically reality or delusion. So if we're going to use their logic, we're going to live in delusion. Let's do that. I'm bringing back this comment. So shout out to Chris Dolan for this comment. If we've discovered that there's all these genders and that gender is fluid, does that mean the claim of the straight white men oppressing everyone else in the past is no longer valid? Because how do we know these men weren't gender fluid? After all, they hadn't been educated yet. So in reality, it could be that a genderqueer majority was actually responsible for all the world's atrocities. Play the game, people. Play the game.
There's 2 different days in the year that I question. There's Mother's Day and there's Father's Day.
Yeah.
As a trans person, as a trans woman, which one do I celebrate?
What a predicament.
Father's Day rolled around. I don't feel like a father. Mother's Day's tomorrow. I feel like a mom.
You're not, though.
Who celebrates me? It's not a situation of pity me or anything.
Oh, of course not.
I just genuinely want to know, is there other people out there that you don't know which one you fall under? Are you a mom? Are you a dad?
I can see how that could be confusing.
Why can't we just have a Parents' Day? Like, you're a parent, that's worth celebrating. Why does it have to be one or the other?
Is he serious?
It actually bothers me a lot, and I didn't think about that till today, and I don't know.
I'd recommend to celebrate your special day at the psychologist's office trying to solve your mental issues.
You cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive.
I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. You know, like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable. You get my point. You get my point. It's like you're doing what you should do, which is digging a bit to see what the hell's going on. So and that is what you should do. But you're exercising your freedom of speech to certainly risk offending me. And that's fine. I think more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
So you haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
gotcha.
You have got me. I'm trying to work that through in my head. Yeah. It took a while.
It did, yeah.
Took a while.
Where did these questions come from? So I didn't realise that not being offended was a right. What even is offended? Basically being upset or having your feelings hurt. So an emotion. So you think that you should only feel the emotions you want to feel, like happiness, for example. You think it's your right not to feel upset or to have your feelings hurt by someone else saying something. We don't live in a fairy tale. We don't live in a cartoon. We live in the real world. It is what it is. You're going to get offended.
You here for an abortion too? Yeah, I discovered a few days ago I wasn't bleeding out my coos, so I guess I'm knocked up.
Mrs. Garrison?
Oh, that's me. Hello, doctor. Looks like I need an abortion.
An abortion?
Yeah, I've got one growing inside me. Now, you're gonna scramble its brains or just vacuum it out?
Mr. Garrison.
Mrs. Garrison.
Mrs. Garrison, you can't have an abortion.
Don't you tell me what I can and can't do with my body. A woman has a right to choose.
No, I mean you're physically unable to have an abortion because you can't get pregnant.
But I missed my period.
You can't have periods either. You had a sex change, Mr. Garrison, but you don't have ovaries or a womb. You don't produce eggs.
You mean I'll never know what it feels like to have a baby growing inside me and then scramble its brains and vacuum it out?
That's right.
But I paid $5,000 to be a woman. This would mean I'm not really a woman. I'm just a guy with a mutilated penis.
I think that was from about 10 years ago, that episode. So, wow, did they predict what was coming? But yeah, anyway, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.
75 years. That's how much time you get if you're lucky. 75 years. 75 winters, 75 springtimes, 75 summers, and 75 autumns. When you look at it like that, it's not a lot of time, is it? Don't waste them. Get your head out of the rat race and forget about the superficial things that preoccupy your existence and get back to what's important now. Right now, this very second. And I'm not saying drop everything and let the world come to a grinding halt. I'm saying that you can become a seeker. You can be loving more. You can be taking some chances. You can be living more. You can be spending more time with your family. You can be getting in touch with the part of you that lives instead of fears, the part of you that loves instead of hates.